My contract at UCLA is running out. Despite winning a national championship for them last year, I only have 1 year remaining on my deal, and who knows what the future holds, but first, I have to coach a brand new Bruins team because we lost almost every starter to the NFL draft. With Robert Armstrong, Greg Ridgway, and our best 3 receivers all going in the first round, the offense was full of new faces, and junior quarterback Jamie Sears was getting his first ever career start at the Swamp. If I was going to win a championship with this team before I made my decision on where I'd be next year, he would have to step up, and even though he wore gloves on his throwing hand and was playing a top 10 team, he threw a touchdown on our first drive. I wish our defense was as good as last year's, but obviously it wasn't, and with 2 minutes left in the second quarter, Jamie Sears turned it over in the red zone, so we were lucky to go into the half only down 4. I knew it was going to be hard to coach so many new faces, but nothing was going our way today. Freshman running back Justice Johnson was forced into a big role for this team, and he wasn't ready for it, which wasn't good since the Gators kept scoring on us. I was definitely missing having Robert Armstrong at the helm as we went into the fourth down by 11, but this big third down stop by my defense gave me hope. Florida would have to settle for 3, and we still had a decent chance as Jamie Sears threaded the needle to Jimmy Babcock. On the next play though, somehow this ball ended up in our offensive lineman's hands, and we just continued to lose yardage as the line wasn't able to block for very long. That sack put Jamie Sears out for 3 weeks, and we were going to be stuck with backup quarterback Nicholas Cabral, who was only a freshman. Obviously, we didn't win at the Swamp, and if I wanted to turn the season around before it was too late, we had to beat Rutgers. We did not get off to a good start though. Nicholas Cabral threw an interception on the 3rd play of the game, and somehow the Rutgers cornerback slipped out here and took it all the way to the house for a pick-6 score, and I was fuming. My coaching career was in the hands of a freshman quarterback, and he was scaring me, but he was managing to slowly get in a groove as he found Wendell Johnson for 28 yards. Justice Johnson took it into the end zone, and all of a sudden, this was a championship contending team. Well, not really, we were still far away from that, but I was starting to feel like I could coach this team into the playoffs this year, and if I could do that, I'd have any job that I wanted. It seemed like Nicholas Cabral actually had a cannon on him, and I wanted to write him off early because he also wore gloves, but he was proving me wrong against Rutgers. Yeah, his playstyle was very risky and full of random moments, but because of that, it also made him hard to predict and stop as Rutgers didn't have an answer. I would have never thought the freshman could be the one that could lead us to a championship, but he got us the win in his debut, and his 4 touchdowns were very impressive. We were already back up to number 6 in the country, and fortunately the next few weeks were easier games because after that, they were rough. The rain could end up giving us problems today, so we might have to run a lot, and Nicholas Cabral was already on top of that. However, backup halfback Brian O'Neill was in for us, and that's because Justice Johnson strained his quadricep in practice. That could make running very difficult, but luckily Jimmy Babcock was able to hold onto the ball no matter the circumstances, and he got wide open to score the opening touchdown on the Hoosiers. They responded back with 2 minutes left in the half, but that gave us plenty of time to go down the field on Indiana and get points of our own. Honestly, 15 seconds would have done the trick since Nicholas Cabral was able to find Kevin Martin for an explosive play that would get us all the way to the 2-yard line, but I wasn't expecting that at all. Sophomore Brett Tyson even ended the second quarter with a 58-yard field goal, so everyone's spirits were super high, but we started the second half in the worst of ways, taking a safety, and within an instant, this game was close again, as Indiana even got the 2-point conversion to tie it up. There was a chance Jamie Sears could be back from injury to play next week, and I didn't know what I was going to do. If Nicholas Cabral could pull out a win here, I would be lost because I mean, how could I not start the guy that had turned around our season when we needed it the most? I don't know what I'll end up doing, but we need a stop, and we are so close to getting it now. On 4th and 2, they went with the run and we locked it up, so we're going back home with a win, and somehow Nebraska lost to Maryland, so that will make the division race very interesting. Jamie Sears is back and healthy now as well, but I just can't get myself to start him today because Nicholas Cabral has just had way too many wild plays. I want to see him at his max potential, and he would have had a great start against the Gophers, but junior Michael Brewer made a very costly mistake, and then the worst possible thing happened here as Nicholas Cabral couldn't get up. He was carted off of the field, and now Jamie Sears would come in and play for us. We scored almost immediately, but so did the Gophers in response, and then Brian O'Neill had his big moment. I don't know why the backups have come in and looked so good this season, but he went for 50 yards before getting stopped, and that would lead to a Jimmy Babcock touchdown. Minnesota was 0-2, but they were giving us the game of their lives as they continued to get themselves in scoring range. So we went into the half down by 13, where we found out that Nicholas was only out with a concussion. That really lifted team spirits as we scored to start the third quarter, but with less than 4 minutes left, we found ourselves down by 15, and the comeback was on. We didn't get the 2-point conversion, but for some reason, Minnesota went for it on 4th down instead of kicking, so we weren't quite out of it yet. Wendell Johnson created some separation as he took this reception 31 yards, and Justin Galloway would hold on to the next pass despite being decapitated. Time was not on our side, so luckily Jamie Sears got out of bounds on the scramble, but he couldn't get the ball out a few plays later, and then, panicking, he hurried it up instead of letting the field goal unit come out, resulting in our comeback hopes falling short. We were now 2-2 this season, and I was honestly starting to panic. UCLA still hadn't offered me a new contract, and maybe I shouldn't have declined their initial offer this offseason, because who knows what jobs will be open if this year continues to go bad. The playoffs seem like a pipe dream at this point, but they really aren't. Nicholas Cabral is back from injury this week against Northwestern, and if we somehow win out, I think we can sneak in. I mean, Wisconsin made it at 9-3 last year, so I'm not losing hope yet, especially because Jimmy Babcock was starting to really break out. He kept getting wide open, and he would catch the ball with 4 guys all over him. He ended the first half bringing in his second score of the day, and on the other side of the ball, we were playing really well as Northwestern had yet to get a touchdown on us. Midway through the third quarter, Nicholas Cabral threw up a bomb to Jimmy Babcock, who came down with it and fought for plenty of extra yards in the process, but Wendell Johnson ruined it as the ref caught him committing offensive PI. So instead, we would get absolutely nothing out of this drive, but luckily it wouldn't even matter with how our defense was playing. They were making quarterback Joey Parks hate his life, and he was completely rattled as he wasn't able to make any reads in the red zone against us. Well, I take that back. He did throw a pretty nice laser on the following play, but on the 2-point conversion, he froze up and he would instantly regret it. From there, we were able to run out the rest of the clock, and we got a much needed win because we could still come out on top of the Big Ten West. Cal has given me issues all throughout my career at UCLA, and I was expecting today to be no different than the rest, so it's a good thing my defense decided to come alive once again. However, the issue was my offense. Nicholas Cabral was really struggling to deal with the Golden Bears' pressure, so I was thrilled to see him evade the pocket and throw a dot to Jimmy Babcock. We were fortunately still in the game, and actually, with time winding down in the third quarter, we were looking to take our first lead of the day. Jimmy Babcock got wide open for the easy snag, and we were now in a much better position to win this rivalry game. It took a while, but we were finally scoring some points, and being up by 7 now, all we needed was one more defensive stop. On 4th and 4, Cal went with the halfback screen, and their running back was so close to getting the first down, but it turns out we held him just short, and that was huge for us, as Brian O'Neill was put in a position to help us drain the clock and seal the win. On 3rd down, he got wide open and laid out to make the most important catch of the day, and he was fighting his hardest to keep the starting spot with Justice Johnson returning soon. The team was starting to figure things out, and we were already back into the top 10, where Louisville, who we play at the end of the year, was sitting at 7-0. This could be the game that changes everything for us. Wisconsin is undefeated and the best team in the country, but even though they're really good, this gives us a chance to make a statement, because if we can beat them, we can beat anybody in the nation. From the start, Nicholas Cabral and Jimmy Babcock were hooking up for massive gains like usual, and we were able to get onto the board first. Defensively, we kept getting 3rd down stops as well, so I felt like if we could ramp up the scoring a bit, we had a decent chance. Wisconsin ended up going up by 3 here, and all of a sudden, they had really stepped up their level of play. After an atrocious read read by Nicholas Cabral, things were not looking good for us, and we were just lucky to hold Wisconsin to a field goal again. It gave us a chance to score before the end of the half, and fortunately, the best connection on the team was linking up for large plays. They put running back Justice Johnson in an amazing position where he could just run it in for his first touchdown since being injured, and we went into the half with a lead. By the end of the third quarter, we had maintained it pretty well, as Wisconsin was still down by 3 and they were a little bit shook. Despite their best efforts today, we were playing like the better team and the explosive plays were destroying them. Jimmy Babcock was left wide open in the end zone, giving us a 10-point lead, and now, with time winding down, we were sitting in a great position to pull off the upset, but they got a touchdown here, so we still needed to recover the onside kick and run out the rest of the clock, which was looking very likely after Brian O'Neill broke off this 28-yard run. On an important third down, Jimmy Babcock fell just short of the end zone, but Brian O'Neill would clutch up and finish the job as we took down the #1 team, and we continued to move up in the polls, which was great news. On top of that, with more good news, I have to tell you all about the free offer PrizePicks has for the Super Bowl. All Patrick Mahomes has to do is pass for over 1 yard for you to win on this free square, which can go in any of your entries. I'm going to pair it with Jalen Hurts under 46 rushing yards, but you all can choose to use it with whatever you like. If you aren't on PrizePicks already, code BOARD or the first link in my description will double your initial deposit up to $100, and it's available to play in over 30 states, so there's a good chance yours is eligible. They have every sport you can think of, and time is ticking before the Super Bowl starts, so make sure to sign up using code BOARD. Now, we have to play at number 5 Iowa, and since Justice Johnson is out with another injury, Brian O'Neill is the starter. He's done a good job when he's been in, and the threat of him running sucked the Iowa safeties down, which led to a wide open Kevin Martin over the top of the defense who would shed a tackle and take it in. Again, the explosiveness of my offense has always been the best part about it, and this group of guys was figuring it out as we went up by 14. I wish we could have played this well from the beginning of the season because we could have been undefeated, and I truly believe that. Nicholas Cabral might only be a freshman, but his ability to extend plays and find the open receiver is incredible, and midway through the second quarter, he found Wendell Johnson in the back of the end zone, extending our lead to 18. I was starting to feel bad for all of the poor little kids that had to watch this blowout from the hospital, as we had completely turned our season around, and now the college football playoffs were looking likely. My name was starting to make headlines for college and NFL head coaching positions, and I would have to make a decision at the end of the season, but for now though, I just had to focus on getting this team through the year, and Nicholas Cabral was making that so much easier with this massive win at Iowa. We were now on top of the Big Ten West, and we could secure our position by beating number 4 Illinois, but I knew that that would be quite the challenge. Luckily, Brian O'Neill turned a 4th and 2 into a touchdown scoring play, and it seemed like my defense was playing really well. Despite being in double coverage, I let Nicholas Cabral throw it up to Jimmy Babcock, and like expected, he came down with it as he was playing like the best wide receiver in the country. I just couldn't get over how effortlessly he made lengthy plays look. He always found open space in the defense, and he even caught his 3rd touchdown of the day before halftime. On the other side of the ball, we just continued to force turnovers, and my defense ended up getting Illinois' starting quarterback benched for the game. In back-to-back weeks, we had blown out a top 5 opponent, and I was so proud of this team. Nebraska was having a down year, but we can never take them lightly. They were at the bottom of the conference, yet on their opening drive, they went all the way down the field on us and scored with this 14-yard run. To follow that up, they forced a 3-and-out, and their running back, Garrett Fountain, wouldn't go down without a fight. He was almost unstoppable, but my offense responded with back-to-back touchdowns, so we were alright. However, Garrett Fountain decided that he was going to score again as he broke tackle after tackle, and he was single-handedly beating my Bruins so far. On top of this, I couldn't believe it, but to end the first half, Nebraska launched up a prayer, and somehow Brody Wood came down with it. So we were now trailing by 14, and I knew this game wouldn't be easy for us, but I didn't think we were ever going to be down by this much at home. We went into the 4th quarter down by 11, and the comeback had to start soon, but unfortunately, we were stopped short on 3rd down, so settling for 3 was the best option. I had to trust my defense, and thank goodness that I did, because they got us the ball back when we needed it the most, and now we had a chance to tie it up. With about about 2 minutes left, Nicholas Cabral took a very costly sack, and it gave us no choice but to take the field goal. So now we needed a stop. I was willing to commit everybody to holding Garrett Fountain, and that forced Nebraska to pass on third down, where we got a sack, and all of a sudden we were very close to completing the comeback on the Cornhuskers. Being the wild card that he is, Nicholas Cabral gave every person in the stadium, including me, a heart attack on this play, but it worked, and now we just needed a few yards where tight end Luke Blankenship would make the catch, helping us escape with the last second win over Nebraska. It seemed like we were almost to lock into the top 4 now, and I was going to coach against Louisville soon, but first we had our biggest rivalry game. I wanted to leave the Rose Bowl with the victory bell today, and since USC's kicker shanked the 54-yarder wide right, that gave us the opportunity to be the first team on the board, which was looking very likely after Wendell Johnson took a simple pass almost 50 yards inside the Trojan 10-yard line. Brian O'Neill finished the job, and less than a minute later, we forced the USC quarterback into a terrible read. However, on the next play, Nicholas Cabral thought he had an open receiver, but instead, he gave it right back. And then, after another Trojan turnover, we got the ball back, and Wendell Johnson made a toe-touch snag for 6. Believe it or not, we forced another interception here, and almost immediately, Wendell Johnson was left wide open for his 3rd touchdown of the day. Everything that could have gone our way had so far, which was very fortunate, as the Trojans really never stood a chance against us. We ended up winning by 14, and now it was time for the moment you all have all been waiting for. Louisville was coming off of a loss to NC State, and the loser of this game would most likely be completely eliminated from the college football playoffs. That meant it was very important we got the win today, and we started off by forcing a turnover. Additionally, Brian O'Neill, who had completely stolen the starting running back job, took it 28 yards before getting dragged down. Tight end Luke Blankenship also began to get more involved with this touchdown grab, and we ended up taking a 21-point lead early. We were playing our best football at the right time, and we need to have a moment of appreciation for everybody on defense because they've had an amazing year. Louisville didn't even get on the board until the 3rd quarter, but maybe it wasn't too late for a comeback. With the Cardinals head coach being my old defensive coordinator, he knew exactly what we were running here, and his guys read it perfectly, taking it back for 6. I was pretty upset about that play for quite a while because it gave Louisville hope, but luckily our lead was too large for us to blow as I coached us past my old school and we got the win in the snow. The Big Ten championship had been ours for years now, but this was the most important one yet because if Michigan beat us, they'd take our spot in the playoffs, and I really need to stop calling this play. It caused us to fall behind early, so I was thrilled when I called the perfect pass that resulted in our first touchdown. Offensively, we were just really struggling to get it going, and defensively, they weren't holding it down like they normally did, as Johnny Rodgers went for 44 yards here, but something must have lit a fire in them because they had 3 consecutive plays in a row where they forced a loss of yardage. That made it so the Wolverines had to settle for 3, but unfortunately, the wild side of Nicholas Cabral didn't pay off for us when he turned it right back over. His mistake led to Steve Birch bulldozing his way into the end zone, so we went into the half trailing by 13, and that meant our opening drive of the 3rd quarter had to be perfect, which it looked like it was so far, as Luke Blankenship caught the much needed touchdown. Despite Michigan's quarterback being able to make almost every throw in the book, we got the stop, and now my offense was actually threatening to take the lead, which we ended up doing right here. We had completely flipped the switch in the second half, and even though Brian O'Neill tried his hardest to give the game away, we remained in control, and he redeemed himself just a play later as he took the pitch for a large gain. It actually hurt us that this run wasn't marked short because now Michigan had a chance, so I decided we were going to give their quarterback no time. Blitzing was a very aggressive move, but it seemed like it was paying off until somehow the Wolverines got a wide open receiver and he would take it all the way to the house, making it all come down to this, the 2-point conversion where the quarterback was able to take it in. Now, we were forced to go down the field and get in kicking range, but with these 2 studs, it shouldn't be an issue for us. Jimmy Babcock continued to make plays while being in single coverage, and honestly, it didn't matter how many guys they put on him because he kept coming down with it. Instead of giving himself up and letting us kick the game-winning field goal though, Brian O'Neill took it into the end zone again, so that gave Michigan Michigan another chance, and they were trying to make the most out of it. They got into Hail Mary range, and it all came down to this, where somebody almost caught it, but they didn't, and we won another Big Ten championship, which was enough to get us into the college football playoffs. Nicholas Cabral had had a great freshman year, and sophomore Brian O'Neill had really stepped up. It's fair to say there was really only one dominant target, and I'm ready to get into our semifinal matchup against Louisiana Tech. Somehow, they went the entire season without losing a single game, but we were looking to change that today, as I knew there was nobody on their defense that could guard Jimmy Babcock one-on-one. Their offense seemed to move down the field pretty easily though, so it's a good thing we kept holding them to 3. In fact, it was a great thing because it set up a kickoff return opportunity for freshman running back Jimmy Williams, and he would make the most out of it as he took it all the way to the house to put us up by 8. Then on the next possession, we finally stopped the Bulldogs, and from there we would continue to extend our lead. Even though we wouldn't end up recovering the fumble on this play, I was really proud of how my defense was performing, and as long as they kept holding them to field goals, we'd be good. Jimmy Williams had another chance to pull off a kick return for a touchdown here, but right before he broke free, he got caught, so instead we were going to have to get down the field the hard way, but that didn't seem to be a problem for Nicholas Cabral. He threw back-to-back lasers to Jimmy Babcock, who walked it into the end zone, and this one was extremely close to getting out of hand fast because Louisiana Tech's coach wasn't very aggressive. You absolutely cannot expect to win a game where you kick 6 field goals, and honestly, the Bulldogs quarterback just looked lost out there when it mattered the most. I had somehow gotten this team to the national championship game, and it looked like it was going to be against Penn State until their quarterback threw this costly interception with a minute left. I would have never seen this coming, but after the South Alabama quarterback pulled away for a huge run, it looked like the Jaguars would make the Natty. All they needed was one more first down, and this sealed it, so the national championship was set. After starting the year 2-2, I didn't think we could make it here, but we had somehow done it, and cornerback Andrew Stone got us off to the best possible start as he got his first ever pick 6. Honestly, the story of our season had to be that our defense practically carried us, and I was lucky to have such a great group of guys. Nicholas Cabral broke off a sack here and found a wide open Justin Galloway for a 61-yard touchdown, and on the other side of the ball, we continued to lock up South Alabama. This national championship was starting to feel like it was a little lopsided, but it was still nothing in comparison to the Georgia versus TCU one. Quarterback OJ Sparks just couldn't get anything sparked on offense, and after we went up by 27, I was ready to start planning who I would be coaching for the following season. I was getting both NFL and college offers, so I had a load of options, but I just wasn't quite sure where I wanted to go yet. Jamie Sears finally made another appearance for us at the end of the game, and I walked away with my second straight national championship. My coaching future was up in the air though, so I'll need you all to help me decide in the comments what to do next.